The more I healed, the more compassion I started to develop within myself and the love that I always wanted from outside sources, I was starting to get from myself, knowing that nothing outside of me can give me what I was searching for.
Hey, friends and listeners of the Switch for Good podcast. Yep, that's you. I have some really exciting news. Dotsie and I have started a Switch for Good podcast Facebook group. We created it so we can build a community of fans that will help us improve the show and deliver on the topics that you want to learn more about. So we want to hear what your favorite content is, what you want more of, and what you want less of. And if you like the length of the show, Dotsie and I are always talking about the length of the show, right, Dotsie?
Yes.
We want to tailor our show around the needs and desires of our incredible listeners, almost 500,000 of you. And it's really simple to join. Just go to our Switch for Good Facebook page. That's Switch, the number 4, and then Good. And then click on groups. And there we are, the Switch for Good podcast chat. You can post directly in the group, share ideas, talk to other listeners, and connect with like-minded folks. So go, run, join our Facebook group and tell us what you want. Our guest today is a speaker, life coach, vegan, published author, personal trainer, bodybuilder, and peaceful change maker. Joe Coleman, also known as Monk, joins us today to share some of the love-based wisdom he's learned through a transformative healing journey. Joe grew up with a single parent and little resources, and he coped with life's challenges and the painful emotions that come from them by relying on alcohol and drugs. After struggling for years, Joe chose a path of meditation and empathy, and we hope to learn from his inspiring story today. Monk is the author of the book, Love Over Fear, A Guide to Peace and Purpose. His coaching program is based on his own experience healing from alcoholism, poverty, depression, and dysfunctional relationships. He's a change maker, to say the least. So let's learn exactly why Joe Coleman has earned the nickname Monk. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
So a lot of us want to make big changes in our life, and you have. And when you were a kid, you were on a very different path than you are now. So can you share us a little bit about what it was like growing up, who you were, so we can get an idea of how much you've changed?
Well, first of all, I believe that who we are, we know when we show up here, right? We know who we are, even though we don't know about this earthly experience. We know who we are. And then we're given a program. See, people like to think that they have their own thoughts, right? Their own independent thoughts. I do this because of this, but the program, the filter that we're looking through, as far as your program, is how you navigate through life. So if I was born into a very poor situation where there was a lot of dysfunction, a lot of addiction, a lot of violence, I'm going to look at life through that filter. This is going to be my program. We are being created once we get here. We already know who we are, but we're being recreated into something else. And then our whole life, it seems like we're trying to find out who we are. How many people do you know is like, I don't know who I am. It's because we're living through that filter. We know that's not us, but we don't know who we are. So people want to argue when I say you're a program. Right? No, I'm an I think for myself, I do for myself. But if you look back, if you look at the way you navigate through life right now, and why do you do what you do? It's all because of a story that you were given. You didn't know your name when you were born, you were given that. Someone started making sounds wanting your attention. And this is how you started to figure out when my parents make this sound, they want my attention. You still didn't know that was your name. You just knew this sound meant to look that way. You were most likely given your diet. Well, obviously, 100% you were given your diet. And you said, this is my diet. This is how I eat. If you were born into religion, you were given your religion. And then you said, okay, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm whatever that is. Even race is not real. You didn't know you were a certain race until someone told you, or you had an experience that made your eyes open like, oh, I'm different from another race. So all these different things that we think we are not. So if you grow up in a very dysfunctional environment, what is that filter going to look? What does that look like? You think life is actually this way, but you don't know any different.
So tell us about how you grew up.
Okay, well, I'm one of 7 kids. My mom was, she made it to about the 10th grade. So she wasn't she didn't have a lot of formal education. She got pregnant when she was 18 with twins. And then I had a couple older siblings after that. And then it was me, I'm the middle child. And my dad passed away when I was about 3.5. So many of us have different fathers. So from that point on, there was never a man in the house, ever. So my mom's, on the system and all these kids. So we grew up very different. And I didn't know we were different until I had to see the contrast, right? So like I'm saying, you think life looks like this, but then you go somewhere else and see something else. And you're like, oh, this is not normal, how we're living, right? This is different. You go to a different house and everything's clean and they have food in the refrigerator and they got 2 parents and they got a swimming pool. I mean, just stuff like this is mind blowing. So for me growing up, I always looked at us as something different. And I always knew we didn't have money. And you don't know you don't know you don't have money until someone tells you, look, you're poor. Mm-hmm. I started to lose a lot of friendships when we got to the age where, kids started to click up, right? So once someone tells this child, look, why are you hanging out with the broke people over here? You shouldn't be hanging out with them. So you start to lose friends and you start to gain friends that are more like you, because now everybody is becoming separate. And this is life. Everybody is made to be put in these small boxes. So my box started to take a shift, even though I was in organized religion. That's another program. I had that and the dysfunction. So when I went to church and I got taught I'm gonna go to hell if I act like this, and then I get home and that's my life. That's my experience. So you got these 2 mixed messages. You go to church, you act like this, then you come home and you see the opposite. So as I was growing up, I was very indoctrinated when it came to church. I played that role out perfectly, right? I even tried to recruit people. I was like, you better change your ways. You can go to hell. And then my hormones started kicking in, and that's when it started to change.
And tell us about that.
Okay, you start getting a little older and things start to happen physically with you. And then some of the rules that it says that you're going to go to hell if you do this, I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to have to go to hell on this one, because I'm starting to have this attraction towards towards women. And it says, if you do this before you're married, then you're going to go to hell. So I got tired of walking on eggshells. So every time I stepped out of the house, like, what am I going to do that's going to send me to hell? What am I going to do that's going to send me to hell? And finally, I'm just like, whatever. If I'm going to go to hell, I'm going to go on my own terms. I'm going to go out with a bang, right? I'm going to do everything I was told that I shouldn't do. And this started me off on a different trajectory.
Mm-hmm. We're born, I think, naturally to seek love and acceptance, but we become programmed, as you're speaking of, over time to avoid pain. And I can relate to what you're saying. I grew up the same way, except I have an extraordinarily high pain tolerance. So when I kept getting told that, going to hell, you do this, you do that, you do this, went to Catholic school, it was mass every Friday. It was like 2 hours long, when you're 7 and you just repetitively are told this. I finally was like, well, maybe hell, maybe it won't be that bad for me. I started negotiating, how bad is this hell actually? Right. Because, oh no, I want to try some things here on earth because I don't want to live like a nun. Right. So how did you, as a young boy, as you're starting to, the hormones start kicking in, you start to notice the other gender, and you're still programmed to avoid pain, and you're in this kind of chasm of religion. How did you start acting out to deal with the pain?
Well, alcohol was like a magic bullet for me. So I was very insecure growing up because we were so different, right?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I really didn't fit anywhere. So I was very insecure. So I didn't speak my mind a lot. Like sometimes, like the last time I spoke in public, I was 16 and I had to read something in front of a class and I was terrified. I mean, terrified, because it seemed like everybody knew my story. Everybody knew I was poor. Everybody knew all these things about me. And I felt like I was melting in front of people.
Yeah.
Like I was and my teacher says, if you don't do this, you're going to flunk. And I almost said, I'll just flunk then. That's how insecure I was. But when alcohol came along, I wasn't looking for it, but it found me because I started hanging out with different people. And
how early? Like how old are you?
I was a teen. I wasn't really young. I was still in teenage years.
14, 15.
Yeah. So when that happened, I'm like, wow, I feel like my insecurities went away. I was the most talkative person. I had no issues with anything. Like I was literally okay at that moment when I drank. I wasn't worried about what people thought about me. I wasn't worried about the past. I wasn't worried about the future. And I would just, what I come to learn is that person was always in me, right? It wasn't something that was outside of me, but the alcohol brought that out of me. And it suppressed the insecurity part, suppresses the low, and it exposes the high. And this is why we feel so good when we take substances like that. So we're experiencing the higher parts of ourselves. So I just continue to do it because I love the feeling. And it wasn't like I just started drinking heavy right off the bat, but it's a slippery slope when you start using things to change or alter your state. Mm-hmm. And the more I went out, the more I had social gatherings, the more that I drank. And then before you know it, I'm drinking, it went from the weekends to 3 days to 4 days to 5 days. And I started getting into work that didn't have a time clock, right? I didn't have to show up on Monday. I could sell whatever I was selling wherever I wanted to sell it. And I can get up when I wanted to get up and do what I wanted to do. So it was almost one constant party, right? You're selling drugs or you're doing whatever you're doing and you don't have to get up and you just go and drink and go club whenever you wanted to do it. And I thought it was normal because everybody that I was with was doing the same thing. And then, people started going to prison, people started getting hurt, and a lot of things started happening. Like my very good friends were going to prison. I knew it was just a matter of time before I went. I had a lot of close calls where I had drugs on me or I had guns on me, and they just didn't get it. I'm like, I'm so lucky, but really, I think going to prison and taking a break from how I was living would have probably helped me in the long run, to sit down and just be with yourself and really to do some introspective work and look inside and see what's there. Why are you living the way you're living? And all the things I've seen as far as relationships go, all the dysfunction. Like I said, I never had a man in the house. All I could do is learn from what I saw. And everything turned out the same. Like I'm a perfect mix between my father and my mother. I'm a perfect mix between crime and religion. I can see it so clearly now why I was doing what I was doing. So when all this stuff happened around me, I was in a smaller town in Northern California. I said, okay, people are getting shot. People are going to prison. I said, it's a matter of time for me. I'm killing myself with this alcohol, right? I'm killing myself with this alcohol. I am so unconscious at this point. I always felt like I had a big heart and I always felt like I was a good person. But even when I was doing violent things, I felt bad for the people. Like I knew I wasn't living my truth. I knew what I was doing was going against who I really was. But I felt the need to fit in so much, it was worth going against who I really was.
So you were at this time depressed and stressed. And what was it that, and you said you also were very unhealthy. And I guess you were if you were drinking and using drugs and partying at night. What was the catalyst for you to just stop a moment and do exactly what you say you needed to do, which is to think about your life and sit down and take time. Yeah.
Well, I say if you keep doing what you're doing and it's not aligning with who you are, you're either the universe is gonna sit you down, God, whatever you consider the higher power, your higher self, whatever that is to you, source, it's gonna sit you down, or you're just gonna be out of here. You're gonna die, right? So for me,
the fork in the road almost.
Yeah, it is.
You reach.
This was my, so I was coasting along, drinking as my crutch now, not really admitting it, but yeah, that's what I was doing. Whenever I couldn't go to a function without having alcohol in my system, it seemed super boring. Like life was boring without it. So I go to Miami and I'm getting ready to party for a whole week. And the first night I get there, I drink because, Miami doesn't sleep. So I'm up all night till the next morning drinking. Go to bed after the sun comes up. We watch the sun come up. And then I get up to use the restroom and I'm already depressed. All my relationships have failed. I have kids by a bunch of different women. This is a mess. It's a mess.
And you know it. And you know it's a mess.
Yeah, I know it for sure. Right. I didn't know how to treat people. I didn't know how to treat myself. I didn't know how to love others. I didn't know how to love myself. So I get up and use the bathroom and I'm peeing blood now. So this part, and I'm just already depressed and anxious. Now this is going on. And I know it's because of what I'm doing, right? I know it's because of the drinking and whatnot. And this is when I found out I was an alcoholic. I couldn't stop. I stopped for like 2 weeks and I started back again. And same result. Like I'm killing myself. And I just had my last child. She's 14 and I'm about to be 14 years sober coming up in August. But I just had to make a decision. And it had to be it was either ride this out and die or stop and try to figure it out. So I said, after a party one night, same thing, I'm out drinking. The next day, I'm like, that's it. That's why I know the exact date when I stopped drinking, because I know the person or the party I went to. And in that day, I was like, that's it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. So that was a catalyst for the beginning of the change.
You mentioned empathy, and there's a lot of your story that speaks about empathy and the power of empathy and what it means. But when did that show up for you on this journey post peeing blood, when you started to wake up?
Okay, so like I said, even when I was a kid, I was such a kind, like young boy. And even though I was stealing from stores at like 5 years old and doing stuff like that, I would see a homeless person and want to bring him home. Like literally, like, Mom, can he stay here? I always had that in me, right? I always had that in me. So then I went the other direction. So I didn't know what to do at this time. I tried the organized religion. I tried the street stuff. And to tell you the truth,
you tried other organized religions.
No,
like you grew up.
Okay. I tried that earlier. So I went out of that. I even tried to go back to it and it wasn't feeling right. And then I tried the street stuff. And at the same time, in both cases, I was full of fear. Like in the religion, I was full of fear. And in the streets, I was full of fear. And anybody that tells you if they're in the streets or a religion that's fear-based and they're not scared, they're lying to you. Yeah. Even though you're doing things that you think, oh, he got to have no fear to do that. No, there's fear there. Believe me. And a lot of people, they understand the fear when they get shot and they think they're going to die. The fear comes. You know what I'm saying? The fear is always there waiting to be exposed. So when I started to meditate, it was a choice I gave to. I didn't know anything about it. I said, I don't know what to do. So I don't know how that crossed my mind. I was like, let me look it up. So basically it was saying, sit down and shut up and go inside and see what's going on, right? Just be the witness though. Don't try to change it. Just be the witness. So the first place I used to go meditate is in the bathroom. So I tell everybody, hey, anybody need to use the bathroom? I'm going to the bathroom and do my thing. So I would just go in the bathroom, sit down, close the door. And it was crazy what was coming up. Like, you don't know how crazy your mind is until you stop and pay attention. So this is the thing I was trying to avoid. the healing is what I was trying to avoid.
Mm.
We all need to heal. We get trauma passed down to us from generations after generation, right? It's not just the stuff that we accumulate here. It's the stuff that we've had when we came into this incarnation, right? It's the stuff that's already, that's what they say about generational trauma and all this stuff. They did a study, and I'm just going to mention this real quick, with mice. And I don't condone anything that has to do with animals or testing on animals, but the study was very interesting. They had a mouse and they introduced a smell to it, and then they would shock it, right? So every time, just say lavender, shock, lavender, shock. 6 generations down, they would give the smell to the mouse and it would recoil.
There you go.
Wow.
That's trauma. That's epigenetics.
Mm-hmm.
That's trauma passed down. Now that we're talking about this, slavery, Holocaust, all these different things that certain groups went through, we're still holding on to the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
If we have not dealt with it, if we have not healed from it, it's there and it's going to control everything that we do. Our defense mechanisms, why do you think certain people are so angry or defensive, or they don't even know they're carrying the weight of generations on them, and they don't know how, and then on top of what we're dealing with now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And the pain and the guilt of perpetuating the slavery. And I see that I have that, and I see that in different white people, where it's like, I think part of saying that didn't happen or the Holocaust didn't happen is their generational trauma of just not being able to actually even believe that was in their history, that those were their ancestors. And that pain is so visceral, they just have to ignore it.
Yeah.
Or they want to just ignore it and say it didn't happen.
Yeah, we all have trauma, right? We all have trauma.
Yeah.
And a perfect example is because, I look at things way different now. And I try to listen and understand people that have a different life experience than I do, right? I don't dismiss them like, oh, you can't be dealing with any trauma. You got it easy. I don't care if they came from a millionaire household. I don't care if it came 2-parent household. I don't care if they had all the support in the world. The number one person that commits suicide is a middle-aged white male that has the most advantages as any human on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is the case, trauma is just not about money. It's just not about having 2 parents, and it's not about any of that. So if the middle-aged white man commits suicide more than any other group, what are they going through? So this is the way my mind works now, right? Is it maybe that they're not living up to what they should live up to? The expectations, right? You have all these advantages and you still really can't make it work.
That I think is what actually I've heard people say that is one of the reasons. Like if you are a white male in the United States, middle-class white male, and you are still unhappy, there's no hope. If you're poor in a developing country, you still have hope that you can rise.
Right, for something better, right? Yeah, like certain advantages are going to start to come or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I don't ever downplay anybody's depression, their trauma, or anything like that. So going back to the meditation, I started sitting every day. And what I noticed is things started to feel, it was hard. I was still smoking cigarettes. I used to do that too. So for about a year after I stopped drinking, I needed to do something. I didn't know what to do with myself. People don't understand that. When you always got something in your hand and all of a sudden that's gone. It was such a huge part of my life. It's like just removing a human being from your life that's been there for the last 25 years. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was that like something's missing. So I was doing the smoking thing. And I usually didn't smoke unless I drank. So now I was just doing the smoking thing by myself. I needed to do something. So as I continued to go forward with the meditation, my day started to feel a little bit better. I'm like, okay, my mind's not as busy, it's not as crazy, but it still is. And to this day, you're always going to have a little bit of a crazy mind. You just have to know how to have a different type of relationship with your thoughts, right?
Let me ask you a question about that. I think so many listeners are like, okay, meditation. All right, great. Good idea. I know when I started meditating, I was still smoking too until I started cycling. And then it was a very bad combination trying to be a good cyclist and cigarettes together. But when I started meditation, I was very sick from an eating disorder. And I could sit for like 20 seconds. So when you started, were you just like, oh, fantastic. How do you sit in the bathroom for an hour? Because it's really hard for people to just even grasp it. 30 seconds is okay. It's okay. And I would allow myself, it's okay. If you can do 10 seconds, it's better than no seconds. And then, of course, because it was a practice, it grew. But what was it like those first couple of times in the bathrooms? What did you do? How did you get through just the pain of your mind and where it was going?
Yeah, it was an hour minus 50 minutes. That's what it was.
Okay.
It was only
That's
like
pretty awesome though. 10 minutes.
Minus 50 minutes. It was about 5 or 10 minutes. I couldn't handle more than that.
Mm-mm.
It's like it was insane. I mean, just like things was just all over, just flashing, popping, just like it's almost like.
And did you have feelings too? Because when I have tried to meditate, I'm not a meditator, and one of the reasons is, and I know, Monk, you're going to say, well, that's a good reason to meditate, but I get this feeling in my heart and that's very uncomfortable, and I will sometimes cry, and so that I'm wondering if you had a lot of thoughts, but did you have any feelings also?
Yeah, I mean, meditation was like a purging of the soul for me. Like it was really cleaning. It was house cleaning completely. So as I went forward, my meditation practice started to get a little longer and longer. And what I didn't notice, because it's such a slow process, not very many people wake up instantly, right? It's a slow awakening process, little by little. It's a healing process. Little by little, things start to be purged out and healed. I started to think different, and I didn't really know why. Like I started to think and look at life different. So what happened was it slowly started to change out that program. It started to eliminate that old program and replace by who I really am, which is love. So as I continue to go forward with my meditation, I started to look at like homeless people at different and alcoholics different, and just to look around and to notice the suffering and started becoming more empathetic. And
Which is where you said you were when you were a kid.
Yes, I'm starting to get back to who I came in here as and who I'm supposed to be. So I started to see myself in all of those people. Like, this is me. This is just a different aspect of myself. So the homeless person was me. The drug addict was me. The alcoholic was me. And this is when I'm sober. But at the same time, the genius was me as well. So I have all these different aspects of me out there. And I can choose to align with any one of these different states. It's my choice. So the more I healed, the more compassion I started to develop within myself, and the love that I always wanted from outside sources, I was starting to get from myself, knowing that nothing outside of me can give me what I was searching for. Everything I was searching for, the goalposts would always move when I thought I was getting close, because it was never outside of me. It was always there. All I had to do was change my view from out there to in here. And that's what meditation did for me.
And you mentioned that you'd stopped drinking. So during this time was when you felt less of a need to use outside substances also?
No. So like I said, I smoked cigarettes I never was a drug. I have weed, but that's not a drug. But I never was a drug user. I just sold drugs. So it was just cigarettes and cannabis and alcohol for me. So once the year was up, I dropped the cigarettes. I'm like, so I'm doing pretty good. I'm a year sober. I was like, let me see if I can kick these things.
Can we go back to the sober though? You mentioned that you would quit for a couple of weeks at a time and then you go back to it. But was there a final day, a final night?
Yeah, after that birthday party. So that happened for only a short period for a few months, that going back and forth.
Yeah.
And then after that birthday party, I was like, I'm done.
Oh,
like,
wow.
So
and that was it.
That was it. I never
stuck.
Never went to a class, that class never even crossed my mind. Like, we are so capable.
Yeah.
We are capable of doing anything. We need nobody outside of ourselves to do what we need to do, to heal, to have the career that we want, to have anything we want. We need nobody. Yes, it's beautiful to have people in your circle, right? But we have everything that's ever exists inside of us right now. Everything. We're just stardust. We're just all different tiny expressions of the same thing. So the person that's really succeeding, is being successful, that person, that's you. It's not somebody else. Like, that's literally you. Whatever you want. The person you look up to the most, that is you. That's just part of you that you haven't accessed that part of you yet. People always think that other people are better or worse. Neither is true.
Mm-hmm.
We are on this spectrum where all things are possible. From the best of the best to the worst. What are you choosing? I'm gonna give you an example. So if you think a certain type of people are a certain way, let's take women, for example. If I believe that women are all a certain type of way, right? If I believe that all women are superficial, I'm going to look for that in every single woman so I can be right. So I can find some type of confirmation there. And believe me, all women have an aspect of themselves that's like that. So do all men. So do everyone. You see what I'm saying? So if I'm looking for something, I'm going to find it no matter what.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So if I'm looking at if I think my partner always does a certain thing, I'm just going to look for that specific thing so I can validate my belief about that thing. Mm-hmm. You will see it everywhere if that's what you believe.
Yeah.
So if I believe all women are just God's gift to the planet, guess what? I'm going to see that in all women. Mm-hmm. What are you focusing on?
Yeah.
Sometimes I find it powerful in a relationship anyway to shift your focus to the opposite of. So, for example, my husband is a workaholic. And so I could every day say, you're going to die at that computer screen. Like I'm going to come up one day and find you just right like this, like 18 hours in. But then early in our relationship, I started going, okay, it's a little annoying, but I respect him hugely, and does incredible work with his addiction of work, and he loves it. So that's a very good part of it. So I thought, what's the opposite of this? Well, in my opinion, it's a couch potato who's drinking and watching football. Nothing against football. That I would last about 17 seconds in a relationship with someone like that. So I started focusing on the opposite of what the problem was. Now it's not a problem at all.
It never
I'm always
was.
like, babe, do you need anything? Do you need any food up there? And I love you. Come out and let's have sex. And it's just like, we have fun with it now.
Yeah, it never was a problem. It was only a problem to you.
Me, it was mine. Right, exactly. And how I was viewing his enjoyment.
Right. Like if you can ask yourself, have you ever been a jerk? Have you ever been all these different things that we call ourselves when we're acting out of alignment? And then you ask yourself, have you ever been the opposite of that? We've been all of that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The potential for all of that is still there. Right? If someone cuts you off and you think you got it figured out, and then all of a sudden you're flipping them off and cussing them out, you just got triggered and that part of you just came out. It's still there. It's never gone. Mm-mm.
So for folks, because a lot of people are interested in meditation, but they feel intimidated that they're not doing it right. And what's so interesting about your story is that you had to look up on the internet about meditation. So can you give like 3 tips to our audience about if they want to start, how to start?
For one, there's no wrong way to do it.
Okay.
Right? No wrong. There's a million different ways to do it, but there's no wrong way to do it. That's why there's a million different ways, because all these individuals are finding ways that work for them. And then they put it out there and then other people say, oh, that sounds like a good way to do it. All meditation is being with yourself. and looking inside. That's it, right? You can add breathing exercises to relax your body a little bit more because you want to be in a relaxed state while this comes up, right? And that's why they have different body positions you can be in to get you to a relaxed state. So when you get to a relaxed state, everything is much more clear to you. If you're tense and all over the place, then it's going to be hard to get what you need to get out of it. But it's simply being present. That's the only time that actually exists, the present moment. Nothing else exists. People don't understand this. The clock was made just so we can stick to a schedule, but there's no time. Time is made up as well. And what I'm saying is, you never made it to tomorrow. You've never made it to that place, that fantasy world. Okay. It never exists. Since when have you ever said, oh, I'm here in tomorrow? You've never made it there. Time is just snapshots of the present moment. You remember those books back in the day where you draw on the little pages and you make one picture a little bit different from the next and you spin it like that and it looks like it's moving?
Yeah.
That's life. It's a bunch of little snapshots strung together that looks like it's moving. It's just being present. With the only thing that exists really is being that split shot, that split second, that moment. That's the only thing that exists. So you got the past and you got the future. Time, real time is about that big. So when you're available to really experience life in real time, you start to get guided. You can hear the whispers, right? So the more you sit, the more your intuition will start to heighten and you will hear what you need to hear so you can move the way you need to move to create what you want to create. But you have to be present. We're so distracted all the time. So my first advice is you can't do it wrong. And when you know you can't do it wrong, then it's always going to be right, no matter what happens. No matter if you have a busy mind, no matter if you're frustrated, it's all a part of meditation. To look at that frustration, to be with that frustration. You don't try to push anything out of your mind. Whatever comes, just look at it. You want to be looking at it like you're looking at a TV, right? No judgment. You just look at it. And then when you experience that, whatever you see, or I always want to come back to the breath because the breath keeps us to the present moment, right? So I always focus on the breath as an anchor because when you're focusing on your breathing, then you're out of your head and you're into your body.
Great.
So that'll keep you there. And you're always going to drift away. I don't care how long you've been meditating for, you're always going to drift away. The key is being conscious of being unconscious. If you're conscious of being unconscious, then you can bring it back. The problem with our society is we're just unconscious. We're not conscious of it. We're living a story out, but it's really not our story. We are just living unconsciously. But to be aware of you being gone, that's the key. But then you have, I always use this example. So if you have a dog that's trained off leash, right? This is meditation wrapped up in the story. I always tell the story. You have a dog that's trained off leash. So he's walking with you, no leash or nothing. And that dog sees another dog or something that gets his attention and it starts to run towards that, whatever it is. A trained dog, you can call that dog back and he's going to turn back around, right? That's a meditative mind. Now, a non-meditative mind is you have a dog that's not trained off leash and you have that dog on a leash, and you have that dog on a leash for a reason because it's not good if it's off the leash, right? So that leash breaks. You're not getting that dog back. That dog is just going to run. You're not getting it back. You have no control. So that is taking you to an unconscious place where you have you're so submerged in the water, you don't even know you're wet. You don't even know that you're gone. There's no way to bring this mind back because it's gone. It hasn't been trained to come back. But when you start to implement meditation in your life, you start to be the you start to have a different type of relationship with your thoughts. You start to control what comes in and goes out, right? So you can't stop thoughts from coming in, but you can change the relationship when they do come in. You can give them attention or not. Most people, a thought will come in and they're on it. They don't go, okay, this is probably not something good for me to focus on. I'm going to allow that to go. Most of us get that thought and we're on it, and it grows and it becomes eventually becomes an issue. But if you can look at your mind like everything is neutral, and that's what meditation helps you to do, look at it all as neutral. None of it's fact. It's just thoughts that are coming up. And the amazing part is the more you meditate, the more your subconscious begins to also change your program, and you don't get as many crazy thoughts that come up. Like you're not getting the same, like go out and do this or go out and do that, because you're in a whole different place. Your subconscious mind has been reprogrammed, right? So now your mind's going to be even more settled. So when you get into meditation after years and years of meditation, it only takes a couple minutes for you it's like scooping up pond water. The more you let it sit, the more it separates it becomes clear, right? So the more you practice, when people say, I got a busy mind, I can't, you are the perfect candidate for meditation because your mind has too much control over you. The mind is a terrible master, but a wonderful servant. I was just talking about that this morning. So if your mind is throwing you all over the place and you have this dysfunctional program, guess what? It's like being on the surface of the water when there's a storm. You're going to get tossed everywhere. You have no control. But when you're rooted into meditation, when you're rooted into the present moment, even if it's rough on top of the water, it's still calm. You could always go back to that place where there's peace and presence, and the outside circumstance is not going to affect you the same way.
Where do you recommend that people do it regularly? Like when you were going to the bathroom, did you have a regular time that you did, or is it whenever? Well,
it kind of evolved as I was doing it, right? So I ended up actually becoming an instructor meditation because physically things were happening to me as well. Like I had, I don't know if you ever heard of Kundalini energy. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a couple of them, Kundalini experiences.
Well,
I didn't know what it was.
Tell us what that was, because I thought Kundalini I thought was breath work, and you move the breath in through your body.
No, you can activate it that way, I guess. But for me, I didn't know what it was. And then when it happened, I'm like, what just happened? And the reason why I was like, after years of meditation, and that's the same reason why I'm vegan now too, is because 3 years into my meditation, I was becoming so compassionate. And, everything's put in these boxes, right? Everything is like dogs are made to be loved. Pigs are made to be killed. Everything is a program. Like we're okay with these animals dying, but we'll throw a fit if these animals die. Like in China, if they have the dog festival where they kill a bunch of dogs, we're in an outrage. Yeah. We're sitting there eating 4 different animals in the burger that we're eating right now, and we don't have no problems with it. All these animals are the same. They all feel the same. They all love the same. They're just the same. So shoot, I don't lost my whole train of thought.
First you were talking about you had a Kundalini experience.
Oh, that's what I was doing. That's what I'm doing.
So tell us what that is. Is there a physical sensation?
So anyways, I was meditation 3 years in. I got off track because 3 years is when I gave up meat, when I was 3 years in, because I was making a connection. So I was sitting there and I started to have these crazy head jerks, right? Crazy, involuntary movements. I come to find out these things are called kriyas. So it's energy trying to move, but there's something blocking it. So when it hits that blockage, it makes your body move. Mm-hmm. So the energy we have is supposed to flow from the root through the crown, right? I didn't know any of this stuff. I had no clue. When I started meditating, I didn't know any of this. Like all the stuff happened to me. And then I had to go research, like, what just happened? So I'm having these head jerks, and they were like Tourette's. It was like Tourette's while I was meditating, right? And even at night, I had the craziest thing. And I didn't even tell my wife that this happened for a long time because I thought she would think I was crazy. But I used to sleep on my stomach. I don't anymore. But my head was turned to the left, and my head slowly rotated all the way to the other side in like a corkscrew, like some exorcist type stuff, right? To the other side without me doing anything. And I'm not exaggerating at all, right? So these kriyas were happening. I didn't know where they were. And then one day my stomach started doing a roll like this for like 10 minutes straight during meditation. And it was like a wave. I wasn't doing anything. There was no pain. There was no anything. I'm like, this is super interesting. I'm trying to stay present and not really trip off what's going on in my belly, right? And after it was done, I'm like, what was that? And I had to look it up. And that's the first time I heard about Kundalini. I found a video, and this lady was, she was like a spiritual guide or teacher or whatever. And she had the exact same experience as that. I'm like, whoa, like it's really a thing. And then after that, my kriyas stopped. So I'm putting two and two together, like that whatever was blocking that energy was released and it was flowing. And that's why it was making those waves. Because after that, I had no more kriyas. They stopped. And the second time I had because you can have multiple ones. The second time was the most intense. And I was sitting there meditating and my whole body started doing like this.
Okay. You're going in a circle with your fingers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your body started moving?
Yes. It started going around in circles.
Now, did you know that physically went around in circles, or with your eyes closed meditating?
No.
Like you were?
It was real, like I was almost touching the ground. I mean, it was for real. So I was tripping out when that was happening. And then it would kind of slow to a stop and it would go back the other way, the other direction. I'm not doing anything. I'm just kind of freaked out at this moment, right? And after it was all over with, I felt I had to look this up too. Kundalini vertigo. So for like 2 weeks after that, it felt like the ground was moving. So this energy is so powerful. And then a lot of times people try to release it with breath, and it turns out, and that doesn't turn out good for them. But I was just meditating. It's just happened organically. So this Kundalini vertigo I had for like a couple of weeks where I was like, my body just still wanted to move. Like if I stood still, like my body would just kind of move in circles like that. And then I had this, it felt like someone was pouring warm soda over my head shortly after this experience. And I had to look that up. And that was saying the crown chakra was opening. All these feelings I've never felt before. And this, when the Kriya started, I'm like, I don't know what this is, but something is going on during this meditation. And I didn't know what it was. And I'm glad I didn't know what it was, because then I would have thought I was creating it myself, in my mind, like maybe I'm just tripping, but I wasn't, because I had no clue about what this stuff was. And it's just, like I said, a purging of the soul, a releasing of this beautiful energy that we have in us. And with the releasing of this energy, it translates to your regular life and what you're doing and what you want to do and how you move forward and how you treat people and how you treat yourself. It's all love. And this is what people don't understand. Life is about love, period. This is who we are. This is what we're supposed to express. And if everybody did this, if we all became who we are, none of this madness going on in this on this planet would be going on right now.
And you meditated, you were sober, and then you started feeling all this love, and it translated into your diet. Now, you were a bodybuilder, so help us with the conflicting feelings you might have had about that. You didn't get into professional bodybuilding until after you were vegan, which is amazing. But you still worked out in the gym and were really built. So share with us about your transition to veganism and why you went vegan despite your, being a gym rat.
Yeah. Well, I was even in the gym when I was living that other life. I was in the gym. I once went to the gym with a hangover and threw up afterwards. Yeah, I was in it, but I was doing it because I was doing it for the aesthetics. I was doing it because I wanted to look a certain way, because that look I thought would get me whatever I wanted. See, it's a very selfish thing, not really loving myself, but like, what can I get looking like this? Like, who can I take advantage of looking like this, right? I think we all want things, but we all think certain things are going to get us what we want. And at the end of the day, it's being happy and fulfilled and all the good things we want. But some people think it's money. Some people think it's sex. Some people think it's whatever they're using to try to get there. But I'm here to tell everybody, you already have it. You just have to access it. So going back, like I said, 3 years into my meditation, I stopped eating meat. I didn't know what a vegan was at the time. I was sitting there eating with a friend, and I had a vegetarian omelet because meat didn't seem good to me right at that moment. And she goes, are you a vegan? I mean, she said, are you a vegetarian? And I was like, yeah. That was it. That was the last time I ate meat. And I had to look that up too, because I knew I wasn't going to eat meat anymore. It wasn't like something it's like something spoke through me. So once I said yes. I immediately, after I left that breakfast, I'm like, vegetarian meditation, because I knew I had to do something with the meditation. And what it said was, you didn't want to inflict or harm on any other beings. Like you made a connection, a subconscious connection, and you didn't want to other beings to suffer by your hands. You didn't want to be a part of that anymore. And I said, well, that makes sense, because even though I ate meat, I wouldn't kill that. I wouldn't want to kill everything I ate. That would be traumatic for me. I mean, deep down, I know that's wrong, but if it's not, out of sight, out of mind. So I'll have someone else kill it for me. And then I'll eat it, and I'll be okay with myself. But if I were to watch all those animals die, I wouldn't eat them. So basically, I was being a hypocrite without really realizing I was a hypocrite. And then I learned what a vegan was. After that, I literally thought that chickens just had eggs and cows just had milk. I'm conditioned. I didn't know a cow has to be pregnant to have milk. I didn't know that they gave chickens stuff to have a bunch of eggs, and they just basically kill them while doing it. I didn't know they threw the male chicks into the grinder because they were no use to the egg industry. I didn't know any of this stuff. So when I seen a video of that, that's when I went vegan. I was like, none of this.
They don't feed us that programming.
No.
The reality, the truth,
No, they don't. And I got there through meditation, just knowing that when you are ready for something, it will be given to you. Like when you are ready to make that change, that's going to come up for you. When you are ready. If you're not ready, it's not gonna expose itself. When I was ready to really quit, then all these other things were given to me. Like the meditation came through. I didn't know where that came from. I know I'm here doing what I came here to do 100%. Like there's no question about it. My whole life, when you introduced me with the Joe name, like I don't use that in any way, shape, or form. I don't use that. And I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna give you the backstory. Like I said, we're all programs, right? So I was living a completely different life. Everything I did was different. The way I thought was different. The way I ate was different. Everything in my life, what I did for work was different. Everything. The only thing that was connecting me to my old life was a name that was given to me. I didn't ask for it. My dysfunction, I didn't ask for. My religion, I didn't ask for. My diet, I didn't ask for any of it. So I'm changing all these things. Why can't I go all the way? Because when I hear that name, because it's been so many years since anybody has called me that, it immediately brings up my past to me. Because what I used to do with that name were some things that I can't regret them, but I definitely wouldn't do them today.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That person that wasn't me, that program, did some things, not good things, with that name. And that's why it really made the complete transition from that lifestyle and that name to this name, which was kind of like jokingly given to me. This someone from this previous life that didn't know what I used to do in my past life said, you meditate all the time, you're a vegan, you don't smoke, you don't drink, you're like a monk or something. They didn't know me from before. And that's how that started. And that was like 7 or 8 years ago. And I laughed about it at first, but then I was like, dang, like my life has really, this person has no idea that I used to do the things I used to do. Like this person has literally changed. How do you get compared to a monk when you used to sell drugs and was an alcoholic and treated people bad? I thought that was amazing. and then doing the things I do, that name is also going to stand out. That name's going to be different, right? If you use my birth name, the second question would be like, well, what's the last name? Because I don't know who that is. There's a million of those. But now, like, even if you Google Monk Coleman on Google, it's just nothing but stuff about myself. So it was almost a great marketing tool, as well as that's who I am. Like, that's literally who
feels
I am.
authentic.
Yeah.
Right. It's like moving to a different city and you go, this is home.
Yes.
That whole old program was not me, name included, right? What I thought I can do with myself, the limiting beliefs that I had, all that stuff wasn't me. It was given to me. And I don't choose to align with that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So how did your vegan diet change you and your body?
So first of all, anybody that starts leaving this energy out, the meat energy out of your body, right? People don't understand you literally are what you eat. Like, not just physically, but the pain and the suffering and the stress.
Energetically.
And the fear. Yeah, energetically, you're taking on this energy, right? People don't understand that. Like, literally, you are what you eat. Without that food, you die. So it affects you in every single way. I didn't know this. I just knew that question was said, are you a vegetarian? I just knew I was going to be a vegetarian forever, right? I didn't know what a vegan was. But what happens is when you leave that energy out of your body, you start to get more clarity. So it went from having a certain level of clarity to really being clear and making connections that I probably wouldn't have made if I was still eating that food.
Mm-hmm.
I became more compassionate, more loving, I became so emotional. One time in meditation, I cried like a baby and I didn't know why, but I believe it's because of all the stuff I suppressed, because as men, you're supposed to just, don't cry, you get hurt. Don't cry if you feel this. Don't cry if you feel that. And it was just like a purge, like, okay, enough is enough. All these tears that you held back, they're going to come out today. And it was just because of me sitting there, being present and allowing it to happen.
So everything's changing inside of you, as Alexander and I have experienced as well, exactly what you're talking about. But at the same time, you're bodybuilding. And when I switched over, I was a couple of years out from Olympics. So I'd already been, as a professional cyclist for 10 years. And I remember going, uh-oh, this may be the only area that this does not apply.
Right.
What were you like, I'll just won't be a bodybuilder? Or what did you start changing over first? How were you getting all the nutrients in that you needed to stay strong and big?
Well, at first I didn't. At first I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to eat like that.
No.
I just removed everything that was meat. So I wasn't getting what I was supposed to be getting. Like, I wasn't getting everything. I didn't know how to do it. So if I had a plate with this, and this, I just removed the meat, and I ate meat 4 or 5 times a day.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
So it was a process. And I got to the point where, like, I don't care what it does to my body. I'm not putting that in my body. So I need to figure it out. Right. Yeah. And then when you start doing research and stuff, and that's amazing too, what you've done. It's completely amazing. It's
same thing. You just figure it out when you're convicted. Like, it was like, okay, I can't know this and then unknow it. And what a selfish, crazy person if I'm going to be like, well, I know this, but fuck it. I'm just going to eat it anyway. To what? Yeah. To like go to a race or an Olympics or like, I could never live with myself.
Yeah, no, once you really get it, you get it. Yeah. And I accidentally ate a piece of meat like a month ago because there was 2 trays that had sausage on it. And they looked the same. And I thought it was just both plant-based. And I ate it. And you know how, first of all, my stomach cramped up for like 2 days.
Right.
And then just the emotional stuff, like knowing that you did it, like just the disgust, because you're so anti this.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming. I was just like, oh my God. And it's going to happen. Sometimes, look, my daughter's also a vegan, and sometimes people, at a restaurant, they don't hear what you say, or they give you the wrong stuff. I was in Miami one time and they gave me a regular burger, and I knew it as soon as I bit into it. I knew it was, and I ordered a veggie burger. So things like that happens, but you're doing the best you can. You're not intentionally trying to, be a part of it. But as far as bodybuilding goes, I started to learn a little bit because I started investigate a little bit. And then I was picked up by Clean Machine, a supplement company. Uh-huh. It's like I learned along the way. When I was picked up by Clean Machine, 5 weeks later, I was in a competition. 5 weeks. He picked me up and goes, there's a competition in Texas. I was in Southern California at the time. I was in Torrance. There's a competition in Texas. Will you be ready in 5 weeks? And I said, let's go. And in 5 weeks, I was down to like 4% body fat. I was just that quick, just by, doing something a little bit different. I was already in, good for a regular person. I was in great shape, but for bodybuilding, it's a whole nother level.
But at this point, you're not just removing the meat, you're putting something back in for the meat. So is it just, you just went down the legume, nuts, seeds, protein?
Yeah.
Okay.
I started.
And your muscles stayed, you got really lean, but what happened to your muscles?
Oh, they're here. They're not going anywhere.
I know. I've seen them. Everybody wants to see him. Just go to his Instagram. He looks amazing. Yeah. He's 52 and he looks like he's got a body of a 20-year-old. Yeah, they're not going anywhere. People don't understand. We get a lot of misinformation when it comes to, you need this and this and this, and it changes all the time. Like, you need to eat this. I mean, even back in the day, it was like when I played football, you need to eat this big old heavy meal. Now it's not. You need to put in some simple carbs and some carbohydrates in you to get you energy. It's like that changes all the time, and people don't realize that the narrative that's put out there is from the people that want your money. It's not what's best for you, right? Milk does the body good. We now know that's been alive for 20 plus years. We know that's not the truth. We literally know the studies have shown that it's not the truth. It's one of the most carcinogen. It's like one of the worst things you can put in your body, right? But all the time, milk does the body good. That was the campaign that everybody would know and listen to. I was given milk as a kid in school. Every single day. It's like they're prepping you for this. They want you to consume these things because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people getting paid. So we have to understand, that's why I don't watch the news. Don't do your own research. This country has the highest consumption of milk. I think we have the highest rates of osteoporosis.
Mm-hmm. Or do your own review of the actual research, because we have enough now that shows you the difference. Now
even regular people are going, I don't drink milk. It's like, I got lactose intolerant. No, you're not a baby cow. We're not made to process this milk from another animal. And how I get people to think outside the box is like, what if I offered you pit bull tacos? Would you eat those? And they're like, oh, that's disgusting. Oh, I said, but you know what? In China, that's normal.
Totally.
Like chicken or whatever. It's like the only reason why that's disgusting to you is because it's not part of your program, right? This country says you shouldn't do that. So you've never heard that before. So you wouldn't drink dog's milk. It's milk. You wouldn't drink, you know what I'm saying? You were programmed to drink cow's milk and to eat cows, chickens, and pigs.
We won't even drink milk from a human when we're adults. Right. Like if your neighbor said, I got some breast milk left over, you'd be like, no, heck
thank
no.
you.
Thank you. I want it from this other species that's been locked up for 5 years, please.
Yeah. My sister offered me hers.
Forcibly impregnated.
I use that example all the time. It's like you wouldn't drink it from a woman, but you would drink it from a cow. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So Monk, tell us, so people love to hear what people like you eat in a day. Can you give us an example of a day's?
So I do intermittent fasting my diet has changed so much during this process, because I believe when you start to get in tune, you will be shown what to put in your body, right? I never was a big fruit eater or anything like that, but now that's the first thing I eat. So I do 12 to 8 is my window of time when I eat.
So 12 hours fasting and 8 hours eating.
16 and 8.
Oh, 16 and 8. 16 hours. Okay.
Yeah. So between 12 and 8, like I haven't eaten today, and I'll probably go to the gym after this and still not eat till I get back. So a lot of times I don't eat till like 3 or 4, but I still stop at 8. I allow the body to process. We overeat all the time, and we never give our system a chance to slow down. I also do fasting, 3-day fasting, where I don't eat anything. So the first thing I eat off a fast, which we should eat something that's easily digestible, right? You don't want to eat nothing heavy. So always fruit when I come home. apples, strawberries, blueberries, bananas. Sometimes I'll drink a smoothie, but it's all fruit-based is the first thing. And then afterwards, I might have like a sandwich with avocado or something like that. I might even drink a protein shake with that. And then my wife just makes a dinner, whatever that looks like. So she wasn't a vegan when I started. When I came home and said, I'm not eating meat anymore after I had that experience, she's like, good for you. Like, I'm still going to eat it. But as she continued to like cook for me and leave out the meat, it just became normal to her. And then all of a sudden it clicked for her. And like, she's a full-on vegan now too. She's been maybe 6 years, 5 or 6 years now. But yeah, she makes whatever she makes for dinner. That's kind of whatever she brings. So last night, I think we had black-eyed peas, some wild rice, and some broccoli or something like that. So yeah, that's how I basically eat. And then I'll eat snacks. Sometimes, I'll snack on some stuff. I'll nuts or things like that. But it's very simple. And I don't think I went to Sacramento this weekend and ate everything, all fast food. So sometimes I do that. I try not to. But, you don't have to stop yourself from eating the stuff you like. You just got to do it in moderation. Mm-hmm. Like if I want a donut friend, I love donut friend. When I go down to LA, I'm always going to have donut friend. You can't stop me from having that strawberry donut that with the white. No, you can't stop me from that. So, you can moderation, just have your staple of what you eat nice and solid. And after that, you could go off the path a little bit, but just
have a little fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No one's saying you shouldn't love what you eat. Love what you eat. But yeah, that's how my diet looks. It's very simple, a lot of raw. But I eat more protein when I'm competing. I just retired, I think I retired a few months ago from bodybuilding. Now, look, there, you hear me out. So I went to this weekend. I know a friend of mine that runs a federation, and I was in Sacramento, and it just happened to have a competition in Sacramento. So I went there, my sister, Tammy, and I met somebody there and our daughter, and I was watching it. I was like, dang, do I really want to retire? Like I started to feel that again. Like, should I, there's competition. Yeah, there's competition in 5 weeks here. And I'm like, I could just jump in there real fast. And so I'm still contemplating that.
Okay. Well, we know you've done it before. We know you can do it. 5 weeks is nothing for you.
5 weeks. I'm good. 5 weeks.
Yeah. Good. 5 weeks. Good. 4%. Tell us where we can find you. I know that our audience is going to want to learn more about your book, Love Over Fear, where they can access that and see your progress and how you do in that competition if you do go.
Yeah, my wife was like, I thought you retired. I'm like, I did.
I understand.
Yeah. So monketernal.com is my website, and I just recently got that website up, and I think it's pretty dope. I think it was a very good job. But you can get my book from there, and I can send you a signed copy from there, or you can get it on Amazon. But I would prefer that you got it from the website. And then on social media, Instagram, monk_eternal. And I even have a Monk Eternal TikTok, I think. I think it's under Monk Eternal.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for being talking with us today, Monk. We really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. It's been a while since I've been on it.
Okay. Back by very popular demand is our plant-powered plate fridge magnet, which you are going to receive for free if you leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. So here are the details. Just write your quick review. Does not need to be long, does not need to be a whole story. Just be honest and speak from the heart. Then take a quick screenshot of the review you wrote and email it to us at podcast@switchforgood.org. That's podcast@switchforgood.org. And include your mailing address so we can send you a power plate. We are doing this because the more reviews we garner, the higher we go in search results, which means more folks will learn about our podcast. So the power is in your hands. Leave us a review and zoom, your power plate arrives at your doorstep.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switchforgood.org for loads of info, and you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.